Once in a quiet mountain village, there lived a boy named Haru. From a young age, he had been praised for his determination and strength. People admired how hard he worked, how focused he stayed on his goals, and how he never seemed to slow down. Haru believed that holding on, never giving up, pushing harder, doing more, was what made him strong. He wore his ambition like armor, and moved through life like a warrior on a mission. But deep inside, something always felt heavy. His chest often tightened with stress. His nights were filled with restless thoughts, and he couldn't explain why small failures felt like personal disasters. One morning, after yet another sleepless night, Haru sat by the river near his home. The water flowed effortlessly over rocks, slipping past obstacles without resistance. It moved with grace, not force. Watching it stirred something in him, a quiet curiosity. Why did it look so peaceful? Why didn't it fight the stones? That same day, he heard whispers of a monk named Ryotan, who lived deep in the forest. It was said that he rarely spoke, but when he did, his words stayed with people forever. Intrigued, Haru packed a small satchel with rice and water and set off before sunrise, determined to find the monk and learn whatever secret the river seemed to whisper. The path wasn't marked, but villagers said to follow the sound of wind chimes that hung from trees along the hidden trail. Haru walked for hours, through thick trees and uneven ground, until finally he reached a clearing where a small wooden hut stood beside a still pond. An old man sat cross-legged in front of it, his eyes closed, face calm like the surface of the water. Haru hesitated, but then quietly stepped forward and bowed deeply. The monk opened his eyes slowly and nodded without saying a word. "Master Ryotan," Haru began, "I've come to learn how to be stronger. I push myself every day, but I still feel weak inside. How can I become truly strong?" The monk gestured for him to sit. Haru sat down on the cool earth, his breath catching in his throat. The monk remained silent for a while, just staring into the still pond before them. The silence was so deep that Haru began to hear the rustle of leaves and the faint buzz of insects with new clarity. Finally, Ryotan spoke, his voice barely louder than the breeze. "Strength is not always in holding on," he said. "Sometimes it is in knowing when to release." Haru blinked, unsure what the monk meant. "But if I let go, I'll lose everything I've worked for. Isn't strength about holding on no matter what?" Ryotan turned to him and asked, "Have you ever clenched your fist for too long?" Haru hesitated. "Yes, it starts to ache." "And if you keep holding?" Ryotan continued. "It becomes numb," Haru said quietly. The monk nodded. "Exactly. What begins as effort becomes pain when held too tightly, and numbness follows when we ignore the signs." Haru looked down at his hands, suddenly aware of the tension in them. The monk picked up a small stone from the ground and placed it gently in Haru's palm. "Hold this," he said. Haru gripped it firmly. Minutes passed in silence, the weight of the stone growing heavier in his hand, though it hadn't changed at all. Ryotan said nothing, only watched. After a while, Haru's fingers began to tremble slightly. "It's just a small rock," Haru whispered. Ryotan nodded. "Yes, small things become heavy when carried too long." Haru loosened his grip slightly, then finally opened his hand, letting the stone fall into the grass. The relief was immediate and unexpected. He didn't realize how much tension he had been holding until it was gone. Ryotan leaned forward. "You carry your goals, your pain, your fears, tightly. You think letting go is weakness, but the strength you seek is in surrendering the weight that is no longer serving you. Haru looked at the stone in the grass. It hadn't changed, but he had. Haru sat quietly, feeling the cool breeze brush against his skin. For the first time in a long while, he allowed himself just to breathe. "How do I know what to let go of?" he finally asked, uncertainty softening his voice. Ryotan's gaze drifted to the pond. "Notice the water," he said. "It flows over rocks, around fallen branches, past anything in its way. It does not cling to obstacles, nor does it fight the current. It lets go of what would block its path." Haru watched the water, noticing how easily it slipped away from every barrier. The image rooted itself in his mind. "The things you refuse to release," Ryotan continued, "often become the very things that slow your growth. True strength is not in carrying everything, but in knowing what must be released so you can move forward." A deep silence stretched between them, but it felt comfortable now, like space opening in Haru's chest, making room for something new. Ryotan stood and walked slowly to a nearby tree. He placed his hand on its trunk. "This tree," he said, "has survived countless storms, yet it does not hold on to its leaves when the season changes. It lets them fall. That's how it survives. That's how it grows." Haru followed, standing beside him. "But what if I let go of something important?" he asked. The monk turned to him. "If it is meant to stay, it will. Letting go does not mean losing. It means trusting. Trusting yourself. Trusting life." Haru thought of his past, of people who had left, dreams that hadn't worked out, plans that had collapsed. He'd held on to them tightly, afraid that without them he'd be empty. But now he began to wonder if that emptiness was actually space for something better. "You've been holding your breath," Ryotan said quietly. "It's time to exhale." Haru closed his eyes and did just that. A long, steady breath out. It felt like releasing years of tension in a single moment. They sat beneath the tree as sunlight filtered through the leaves, painting shifting patterns on the ground. Haru's mind felt clearer than it had in years. "I thought strength meant never stopping, always pushing," he said quietly. Ryotan looked at him, eyes calm. "Pushing can build muscles, yes, but wisdom builds depth, and wisdom begins when we stop long enough to listen." "To what?" Haru asked. "To yourself. To the silence. To the quiet knowing inside you that's been drowned out by noise and effort." The monk picked up a single fallen leaf and held it out. It let go without fear. It didn't cling to the branch when its time was done. Haru took the leaf, studying its soft texture. It wasn't broken. It was free. "You've done well to carry so much," Ryotan said. "But strength also means choosing what not to carry anymore." The wind passed gently through the trees. For the first time, Haru didn't resist it. He let it move through him, like the river, like the air, like the truth. The sky began to dim, painting soft golds and violets across the horizon. Haru stood beside the pond once more, watching its surface ripple gently with the breeze. He felt lighter, not because something had changed around him, but because something had shifted within. He didn't have all the answers, but he no longer felt the need to hold on so tightly. Ryotan placed a hand on his shoulder. "Go back to your life," he said. But this time, move like the river. Let go when it's time. Flow when it's right. And rest when needed. Haru bowed deeply. Thank you, Master, for helping me remember what I already knew, but had forgotten. The monk nodded with a soft smile. True strength was never in your grip. It was in your release. As Haru walked away from the forest, the wind carried the scent of cedar and stillness. His step was slow, steady, but peaceful, like the beginning of something new. And now, ask yourself, what are you still holding on to that you no longer need?